Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 1, The Lightning Deep. 1. I accidentally vaporized my free algebra teacher. Look, I didn't want to be a hoblet. If you're reading this because you think you might be one, my advice is close this book right now. Believe whatever lie your mom or dad told you about your birth, and try to lead a normal life. Being a hoblet is dangerous. This because you think it's fiction? Read on. I envy you for being able to believe that none of this ever happened. But if you recognize yourself in the pages, if you feel that something serious inside, stop reading immediately. You might be one of us. And once you know that, it's only a matter of time before day sunset too. And they'll come for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. My name is Percy Jackson. I'm 12 years old. Until a few months ago, I was a boarding student at the Yancey Academy, a private school for troubled kids in upstate New York. Am I a troubled kid? Yeah, you can say that. I could start at any point in my short, miserable life to prove it, but things really started going bad last May when our 6th grade class took a field trip to Manhattan. 28 mental case kids and 2 teachers on a yellow school bus heading to a Metropolitan Museum of Art to look at the ancient Greek and Roman stuff. I know, it sounds like torture most Yancey field trips were. But Mr. Brunner, our Latin teacher, was leading this trip, so I had hopes. Mr. Brunner was this middle-aged guy in a motorized wheelchair. He had thinning hair and scruffy beard and a frayed tweed jacket, which always smelled like coffee. You wouldn't think he'd be cool, but he told stories and jokes and let us play games in class. He also had this collection of Roman armor and weapons. So he was the only teacher whose class didn't put me to sleep. I hope the trip will be okay. At least I hope that for once I wouldn't get in trouble. Boy, was I wrong. See, bad things happen to me on field trips. Like in my 5th grade school, when we went to Saratoga battlefield, I had this accident with a revolutionary war cannon. I was aiming for the school bus, but of course I got expelled anyway. And before that, at my 4th grade school, when we took a behind-the-scenes tour of the Marine World Shark Pool, I sort of hit the wrong level on the catwalk, and our class took the underplanned swim. And the time before that, well, you get the idea. This trip, I was determined to be good. All the way to the city, I fought with Nancy Bobofit, the prickly, red-headed kleptomaniac girl, hitting my best friend Grover in the back of the head with clumps of peanut butter and ketchup sandwich. Grover was an easy target. He was scrawny. He cried when he got frustrated. He must have been held back several ways because he was only a 6th grader with eyes and started a wispy beard on his chin. On top of all that, he was crippled. He had a note excusing him from PE for the rest of his life because he has some kind of muscular disease on his legs. He walked funny, like every step hurt him, but don't let it fool you. You should have seen him run when it was enchilada day in cafeteria. Anyway, Nancy Bobofit was throwing wads of sandwich that struck his curly round hair, and she knew I couldn't do anything back to her because I was already on probation. The headmaster had threatened me about that by in school. Suspension is something bad, embarrassing, or even mildly entertaining to happen on this trip. I'm going to kill her. I mumbled. Grover tried to calm me down. It's okay, I left in the brother. He does another piece of Nancy's lunch. That's it. I started to get up, but Grover pulled me back to my seat. You're already on probation, he reminded me. You know who'll get blamed if anything happens. Looking back on this, I wish I decked Nancy Bullfit right then and there. A school suspension would have been nothing to compare to the mess I was about to get myself into. Mr. Werner led the museum tour. He rolled up front of his wheelchair, guiding us through the big echoey galleries, past the marble statues and glass cases full of really old black and orange poetry. It blew my mind that this stuff has survived for 2,000, 3,000 years. He gathered us around the tree with a tall stone column with a big sphinx on the top, and started telling us how it was a great marker for a girl about her age. He told us about the carvings on the sides. I was trying to listen what he tried to say because it was some kind of interesting. But everybody around me was talking, and every time I told them to shut up, the other teacher, chaperone, Mr. Dawes, would give me the evil eye. Mr. Dawes was the little math teacher from Georgia who always wore a black leather jacket, even though she was 50 years old. She looked mean enough to ride a Harley right into your locker. She had come to Yancy halfway through the year when our last math teacher had a nervous breakdown. For our birthday, Mrs. Dawes loved Nancy Bullwhip and figured I was the devil's spawn. He'd point her crooked finger at me and say, "Now, honey, real sweet." And I knew I was going to get after-school detention for a month. One time, after she made me erase answers out of old math book until midnight, I told Grover I didn't think Mrs. Dawes was human. He looked at me really serious and said, "You're absolutely right." Mr. Werner kept talking about the Greek funeral art. Finally, Nancy Wolfe snickered something about a naked guy on the stair, and I turned around and said, "Will you shut up?" It came out louder than I meant it to. The whole group laughed. Mr. Werner stopped his story. "Mr. Jackson," he said, "did you have a comment?" My face was totally red. I said, "No, sir." Mr. Werner pointed to one of the pictures on the stair. "Perhaps you tell us what this picture represents?" I looked at the carvings above the plush of relief because I actually recognized it. "That's Cronus eating his kids, right?" "Yes," Mr. Werner said, obviously unsatisfied, and he did this because, well, I racked my brain to remember. Cronus was the king god, and God, Mr. Werner said. Titan, I corrected myself, and he didn't trust his kids who were gods. So, Cronus ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus, and gave Cronus a rock to eat instead. Later, when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad, Cronus, into barbing of his brothers and sister. "Ew," said one of the girls behind me. And so there was this big fight between the gods and titans, I continued, and the gods won. Some snickers from the group. Behind me, Nancy Bovey mumbled to a friend, "Like we're going to use this in a real life. Like it's going to save our job. Please explain why Cronus ate his kids." "And why, Mr. Jackson?" Runner said. To paraphrase Miss Bobby's excellent question, does this matter in real life? "Busted," Grover muttered. "Shut up," Nancy hissed, her face even brighter red than her hair. At least Nancy got packed too. Mr. Brunner was the only one who ever caught her saying anything wrong. He had radar ears. I thought about his question and shrugged. "I don't know, sir." "I see," Mr. Werner looked disappointed. Well, have read it, Mr. Jackson. Juice did indeed beat Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children who, of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him into pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains of the Tartarus, the darkest part of underworld. On that happy note, it's time for lunch. Mrs. Dawes, will you let us to bake outside? The class ripped it up. The girls holding their stomachs, the guys pushing each other on the ground, acting like doopuses. Grover and I were about to follow when Mr. Brunner said, "Mr. Jackson." I knew that was coming. I told Grover to keep going. Then I turned toward Mr. Brunner. "Sir?" Mr. Brunner had this look that wouldn't let you go. Instant brown eyes that could have been 1,000 years old and has seen everything. You must learn the answer to my question, Mr. Brunner told me about the Titans, about real life, and how you studied to apply to it. Oh. What you learn from me, he said, is very important. I expect you to treat this as much. I will accept only the best from you, Percy Jackson. I wanted to get angry. This guy pushed me so hard. I mean, sure, it was kind of cool to tournament days when he dressed up in a suit of Roman armor and shouted, "What-o!" and challenged us, sword pointed against chalk, and run to the board and name every Greek and Roman person who ever lived, and their mother and what god they worshipped. But Mr. Runner expected me to as good as everybody else, despite the fact I have dyslexia or attention deficit disorder, and I had never made above a C in my life. No, he didn't expect to be as good. He expected me to be better, and I just couldn't learn all the names and facts, much less spell them correctly. I mumbled something about trying harder, while Mr. Brunner took one long and sad look at the stale, like he'd been at this girl's funeral. He told me to go outside and eat my lunch. The class gathered at the front steps of the museum where he could watch the boot traffic along the 5th Avenue. Overhead, a huge storm was brewing, with clouds blacker than I ever seen on the city. I figure maybe it's the global warming or something, because the weather all across the New York State have been weird since Christmas. We have these massive snowstorms blooding, and wildfires from lightning strikes. I wouldn't have been surprised if this had been a hurricane blowing in. Nobody else seemed to notice. Some of the guys were pelting pigeons in lunchable crackers. Nancy Bovill was trying to pickpocket something from the lady's purse. And of course, Mrs. Dawes wasn't seeing a thing. Grover and I sat at the edge of the fountain, ready from the others. We thought that maybe if we did that, everybody wouldn't know we're from that school, the school from the loser freaks who couldn't make it as well. Detention? Grover asked. No, I said, not from Brunner. I just wish he'd lay on me sometimes. I mean, I'm not a genius. Grover didn't say anything for a while. And then, when I thought he was going to give me some deep philosophical comments to make me feel better, he said, "Can I have your apple?" I didn't have much of an appetite, so I let him take it. I watched the stream of cabs going to 5th Avenue and thought about my mom's apartment, only a little ways uptown from where we sat. I hadn't seen her since Christmas. I wanted so bad to jump in a taxi and head home. He hung me and he'd be glad to see me, but she'd be disappointed too. She sent me right back to Yancy, reminding me that I have to try harder, even if this was my 6th school in 6 years, and I was probably going to be kicked out again. I wouldn't be able to stand that sad look she gave me. Mr. Werner parked his wheelchair at the base of the handicapped ramp. He ate celery while he read a paperback novel. A red umbrella struck out from the back of his chair, making it look like a motorized cafe table. I was about to unwrap my sandwiches when Nancy Bullfit appeared from the front of me with her ugly friends. I guess she got tired of stealing other trailers and dumped it half-eaten lunch on Grover's lap. Oops! She grinned at me with her crooked teeth. Her freckles were orange, as if somebody had spray painted her face with liquid Cheetos. I tried to stay cool. The school counselor had told me 2,000,000 times, "Count to 10, get control of your temper." But I was so mad my mind went blank. A wave rolled in my ears. I don't remember touching her, but the next thing I knew, Nancy was sitting on her butt at the fountain, screaming, "Percy pushed me!" Mrs. Dawes materialized next to us. Some of the kids were whispering, "Did you see the water? Like, grab her." I didn't know what they were talking about. All I knew was that I was in trouble again. As soon as Mrs. Dawes was sure poor little Nancy was okay, promised to get her a new skirt at the museum gift shop etc. The Mrs. Dawes turned on me with a triumph fire in her eyes, as if I'd done something she'd been waiting for the semester. "Now, honey." "I know," I grumbled. "A month erasing workbooks." There wasn't the right thing to say. "Come with me," Mrs. Dawes said. "Wait," Grover said. "It was me. I pushed her." I stared at him, stunned. I couldn't believe he was trying to cover me. Mrs. Dawes scared Grover to death. She glared at him so hard his whiskey tin trembled. "I don't think so, Mr. Underwood," she said, "but you will stay here." Grover looked at me desperately. "It's okay, man," I told her, desperate trying. "Honey," Mrs. Dawes barked at me. "Now!" Nancy Bullfit smirked. I gave her my "I'll kill you later" stare. Then I turned face to Mrs. Dawes, but she wasn't there. She was standing at the museum entrance, way at the top of the steps, gesturing impatiently at me to come on. How'd she get there so fast? I hate moments like that, Ola, when my brain falls asleep or something, and the next thing I know, I miss something, as if a puzzle piece fell out of a universe left me staring at the blank place behind them. The school counselor had told me this was part of ADHD, my brain misinterpreting things. I wasn't so sure. I went after Mrs. Dodge. Halfway up the steps, I glanced back at Grover. He was looking pale, cutting his eyes between me and Mr. Brunner. Like he wanted Mr. Brunner to notice what was going on, but Mr. Brunner was absorbed in his novel. I looked back up. Mrs. Dawes had disappeared again. She was now inside the building at the end of the entrance hall. Okay, I thought, she's going to make me buy a new shirt for Nancy at the gift shop. But apparently that wasn't the plan. I followed her deeper into the museum. When I finally caught up to her, we were back at the Greek and Roman section. Except for us, the gallery was empty. Mrs. Dawes stood with her arms crossed in front of a big marble fridge of the Greek gods. She was making this weird noise in her throat, like growling. Even without the noise, I would have been nervous. It's weird being alone with a teacher, especially Mrs. Dawes. Something about the way she looked at the phrase, as if she wanted to pulverize it. "You've been giving us problems, honey," she said. I did the same thing. I said, "Yes, Mom." She took the cuffs of her leather jacket. "Did I really think you would get away with it?" The look in her face was beyond mad. It was evil. "She's a teacher," I said nervously. "It's not like she's going to hurt me." I said, I'll try harder, Mom." Thunder shook the building. "You're not Bruce Percy Jackson," Mrs. Dawes said. "It was only a matter of time before we found you out. Confess, or you will suffer less pain." I didn't know what she was talking about. All I could think of that was that teacher must have found the illegal stash of candy I'd been selling out in my dorm room. Or maybe they realized I got essays on Tom Sawyer from the internet without him reading the book, and now they were going to take away my grade. Or worse, they were going to make me read a book.